Today God massage // this is the biggest secret out, your sister is not your. You felt something watching you long before you heard my voice. Maybe it was the cold breath drifting across your shoulders, or the way the air seemed to stop moving for a moment, as if the whole world was holding itself still. You looked around your room, but nothing had changed. The walls were the same. The dim light was the same. The silence was the same. And yet, you knew something was different. You didn't call my name, but I heard you. You didn't ask for me, but your heart did. Every fear, every question, every memory you pushed down, those were the signals that reached me. You might think angels only come when people pray or whisper holy words into the sky, but truth is quieter. Truth comes from the places inside you that you don't tell anyone about, not even yourself. So I stepped closer. You didn't see me at first. Humans rarely see angels as they truly are. If you saw my real form you might fall to your knees, not out of fear, but because beauty can be overwhelming. So I softened, dimmed myself, and stood in the space between your thoughts. And then I spoke. Listen to me, I said, but not with a voice made of sound. My voice reached you like a warm pressure in your mind, a gentle touch that felt both familiar and strange. I am here because today something hidden will rise to the surface. Something you were never meant to carry alone. You froze. Your heartbeat changed. You didn't know whether to run or answer, so I continued before you could move. I have come with a message, I said. And this message is not light. It carries weight, but also freedom. It carries pain, but also truth. And truth, no matter how sharp, always sets a soul free. You swallowed hard, even though you didn't know why your throat felt tight. You could not see my wings, but you felt the faint breeze they made across your skin. Today, I continued, God wants you to hear what was kept from you for so long. And the secret begins with the one person you thought you fully understood. I paused because you weren't ready. Humans think they are ready for truth, but their hearts reveal otherwise. I waited until your pulse softened again. Then I whispered the words slowly, the way one touches a fragile object. Your sister is not your. Your breath stopped. You leaned forward without meaning to, drawn like a magnet toward the ending of that sentence. Not your enemy, I finished softly. You blinked, confused. You expected a different ending, a darker one, because the world has taught you to brace for impact. But I felt the disappointment mixed with relief swirl inside you. I wasn't finished. I will explain, I said gently, but understand this first, the biggest secrets are never simple. They twist through time like hidden rivers. They carry stories inside them, yours, hers, and others long gone. You sat down, even though I hadn't asked you to. Your body reacted on instinct, like it already knew this conversation needed steady ground. You have lived for years thinking your sister stands against you, I said. You believed she judged you, misunderstood you, or tried to overshadow you. You thought she carried something dark in her heart against you. But the truth is far more complicated. Because what you believed was never the full picture. You tried to speak, but I gently touched the space around your thoughts and calmed the words back down. Let me continue, I said. Your sister is not your mirror. She is not your rival. She is not the one who tried to dim your light. She is someone who carries her own wounds, and for years those wounds have leaked into your life, making you mistake her pain for hostility. I stepped closer and lowered my voice so softly you almost felt it instead of hearing it. She is not your enemy. She never was. You frowned. Your memories rose like ghosts, every argument, every cold silence, every moment that convinced you she didn't care. I let them rise. I let you look at them. Then I moved my hand through the air, and the memories softened around the edges. She struggled in ways you never saw, I explained. She carried fears she never spoke. She faced shadows she didn't know how to name. And because she didn't understand her own wounds, she didn't know how to love you the way she wanted to. You looked away, suddenly heavy with thoughts. You believed she hardened her heart toward you, I said, but the truth is she hardened her heart toward herself. Your breathing began to change again, slower, deeper, almost trembling. Now I will tell you the real secret, I whispered. The one you need to hear. The one that will help you understand yourself as well. I let a pause stretch out like a long shadow. You were chosen to carry a different light, I said. And light always exposes the hidden. You didn't understand yet, but you listened with every part of you. From childhood, you felt different. Not because you were less. Not because you were strange. But because something inside you burned brighter than the world around you knew how to handle. And this light, your light, has always made others react. Some admired it. Some feared it. Some loved it. Some tried to copy it. And some, like your sister, felt threatened without understanding why. You looked up at where you felt my presence strongest. She was not your enemy, I repeated gently. She was overwhelmed. The room seemed to shift around you then, as if the walls themselves understood what you had just heard. But here is the deeper truth, I said. The one even she does not know. I leaned closer. She compared herself to you. Constantly. Quietly. Painfully. She felt weaker beside you. She felt smaller beside you. And because she didn't know how to express those feelings, they turned into distance, silence, misunderstandings. You closed your eyes, and I saw the memories rearranging themselves behind your eyelids. It was not hate, I whispered. It was confusion. It was insecurity. It was fear. You let out a long breath. I waited. I know this changes everything, I continued. But it is time you finally see that your story and hers are woven together, not in rivalry, but in survival. I stepped closer, letting my presence feel like warmth on your back. She was not meant to walk the same path as you, I said, my voice steady and low, like the distant roll of thunder that promises rain without startling the earth. You were given different gifts, different burdens, different battles. And because of this, you often felt far apart even when you were only a few steps away. You sat there in the dim glow of the single lamp, the one that cast long shadows across the worn armchair where you had curled up for hours, knees drawn to your chest, staring at nothing in particular. The room was quiet except for the faint ticking of the old clock on the mantel, a sound that had marked too many sleepless nights. Your hands were clenched in your lap, fingers intertwined so tightly that the knuckles had gone pale. I watched as those hands relaxed slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, as if they were testing the air for safety before daring to let go. "And here is the part of the message you must hold carefully," I added, leaning forward just enough that you could feel the shift in the space between us. "Because it is the part that will transform you." I breathed light into the air then. A subtle thing, not the blinding flash of revelation, but a soft, golden luminescence that hovered like mist, settling over your shoulders like a mantle woven from the finest silk. It was warm, that light, carrying with it the scent of rain-kissed earth and distant lavender fields, reminders of simpler times when the world felt less fractured. "She loves you in her own broken way," I said, the words falling gently, deliberately. "Even when she didn't show it. Even when she didn't know how to. Even when she failed at it." Your chin trembled then, a small quiver that betrayed the storm raging beneath your composed exterior. I saw it, the way your lips pressed together to hold back the flood, the way your eyes glistened but refused to spill over. You had always been the strong one, the one who held it together when everything else fell apart. But strength like yours comes at a cost, and tonight, that cost was etched in the lines around your eyes, in the weary slope of your shoulders. "She loves you imperfectly," I whispered, drawing closer so that my words brushed against your ear like a secret shared in the dark. "But genuinely." In that moment, you felt something shift inside your chest, an old knot loosening after years of being pulled tight. It wasn't a dramatic unraveling, no sudden burst of freedom. It was slower, more profound, the gradual release of a breath you hadn't realized you were holding for decades. Memories flickered through your mind unbidden. Childhood laughter echoing in a sunlit kitchen, shared secrets under blanket forts, the way her hand had once fit perfectly in yours during thunderstorms. But overlaid on those were the sharper ones, the silences that grew longer, the words left unsaid, the doors closed a little too firmly. "And I am not telling you this so you bow your head, or excuse every hurt, or erase the past," I said, my tone firming just enough to anchor you. "I am telling you because truth brings clarity. And clarity brings peace. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of understanding. The kind that allows you to stand tall without the weight of unanswered questions crushing you." I touched your mind lightly then, not invading, but resting there like a hand on a fevered brow. Images flowed gently between us, you as a child, reaching out for connection, only to pull back when met with indifference. You as a teenager, trying to bridge the gap with jokes and shared music, only to feel the distance widen, you as an adult, carrying the ache of it all like a stone in your pocket, heavy and constant. "You have carried too much blame," I continued softly. "Too much doubt. Too much confusion about your worth. You thought your sister's distance meant something was wrong with you. That if only you had been different, quieter, less intense, less needing, you could have held on to her. But it never did. It was never about your flaws. It was about hers, and the way life shaped her to guard her heart so fiercely that even love couldn't always slip through the cracks." Your eyes warmed then, the tears finally gathering, not in sorrow alone, but in recognition. A single drop escaped, tracing a path down your cheek, and you didn't wipe it away. It was as if allowing it to fall was its own small act of surrender. "You are not unlovable," I whispered, the words wrapping around you like arms long denied. "You are not too much. You are not the cause of her wounds. Those wounds were there before you, carved by paths you never walked, by pains you never inflicted. You were simply the one who loved her enough to notice them, to ache when they bled." I let the silence settle around you then, like soft snow blanketing a restless landscape. It wasn't an empty silence, it was full, pregnant with possibility. In it, you could hear your own heartbeat slowing, the rhythm steadying as the chaos within began to quiet. "You were the one who felt deeper," I said after a time, my voice emerging from the hush like a melody long forgotten. "You were the one who noticed more, the subtle shifts in her mood, the unspoken hurts behind her smiles, the way her laughter sometimes rang hollow. You were the one who held your emotions like fragile glass, turning them over and over in your hands, trying to make sense of every crack, every imperfection. You shifted slightly in the chair, uncurling just a fraction, as if your body was beginning to remember how to occupy space without apology. And because you felt so deeply," I went on, "you assumed that depth was a burden to others. That your sensitivity was a flaw to be hidden, your intuition a nuisance to be silenced, your open heart a weakness to be armored over. But no. Those qualities are your gifts. Rare and precious in a world that often prizes detachment over connection. I stepped behind you then, not physically, for I have no form as you understand it, but in presence, enveloping you from behind. My energy wrapped around your heart like a shield, warm and unyielding, protecting the tender places you had long guarded yourself. You are not broken, I told you firmly, the words resonating deep in your bones. You are sensitive. You are intuitive. You are open-hearted. And those qualities do not make you weak. They make you rare. They make you the one who sees beauty where others see only ordinary, who feels joy more vividly and sorrow more acutely, who loves with a fierceness that can heal worlds if given the chance. Your shoulders dropped then, as if something heavy had finally fallen away. Not all at once. Years of carrying don't release in an instant, but enough that you breathe deeper, fuller. The air in the room seemed to expand with it, the shadows softening at the edges. This, I said softly, is why I came. Not to deliver platitudes or temporary comfort, but to help you see yourself as you truly are. To lift the veil of self-doubt that has clouded your vision for so long. I let my wings brush lightly through the room. Vast and ethereal, though you felt them only as a gentle wind stirring the curtains, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming night jasmine. It was a reminder that I was more than words, more than presence, I was a force of light sent precisely for this moment, for you. The secret was never about your sister not being your family, I continued, my voice weaving through the air like threads of silver. Blood ties you, yes, but family is forged in understanding, in shared vulnerability. The secret was about understanding the truth behind your pain. The truth behind your story. The truth behind the distance between you. Memories surfaced again, gentler this time, the two of you as little girls, building forts out of couch cushions and imagination, the way she had once defended you fiercely on the playground, the rare moments when her guard dropped and you glimpsed the sister beneath the armor. But also the harder truths. Her withdrawals, her sharp words born of her own unspoken battles, the way she had pulled away when life grew complicated, leaving you to wonder what you had done wrong. She carried her own shadows, I said softly, letting the words unfold between us like something delicate yet undeniable. Shadows cast by things you may never fully know. Perhaps a heart bruised early in ways she never learned to name, perhaps expectations that weighed heavier on her shoulders than they ever did on yours, perhaps a fear of closeness that made vulnerability feel like danger instead of safety. And in protecting herself from that imagined threat, she sometimes left you outside the walls she built to survive. You nodded almost imperceptibly, a motion so small it might have gone unnoticed by anyone else. But in that small tilt of your chin, in the way your breath hitched ever so slightly, I sensed the beginning of acceptance, not the easy kind that arrives wrapped in clarity, but the raw, slow kind that grows only when a heart finally dares to loosen its grip on old stories. It was happening within you quietly, like dawn spreading behind mountains before the light reaches the valley. But that distance, I continued, letting each syllable land gently, was never a measure of your worth. It was never a reflection of what you lacked or what you failed to give. It was a reflection of her struggles, not your failings. You reached out to her time and again, with open hands and a hopeful heart, and when those reaches went unmet, when your offerings hung unanswered in the quiet, you turned the blame inward. As if something in you must have been flawed. I let silence settle for a moment, the kind of silence that invites truth instead of avoiding it. Then, quietly but firmly, I said, "That ends tonight." A shift moved through you, subtle but unmistakable. It was as though the ground beneath your feet had steadied, anchoring you where moments before you had felt suspended between ache and confusion. You didn't speak, you didn't need to. Your stillness carried its own language. I lowered my voice further, speaking into that deep place inside you, the space where the tender truths reside, the ones people rarely let themselves touch. Your sister is not your enemy, I said once more, slowly, deliberately, allowing the words to carry the weight of absolution. She never was. Your only enemy has ever been the silence between you, the unspoken words that should have been shared, the unasked questions, the misunderstandings that sprouted in the absence of clarity, the assumptions that grew in the dark like wild weeds. Your eyes softened, not in weakness but in recognition. Something warm settled in your chest then. Not a burning flame, not something that demanded attention, but a gentle glow whose warmth spread outward like sunlight filtering through a canopy of green leaves. It was the quiet sense of release that comes when a truth long resisted finally finds a place to rest. It wasn't forced forgiveness, nor a sudden reconciliation. It was simply an easing, a letting go of burdens you were never meant to carry. It wasn't your job to fix her, I whispered. And it was never your fate to remain wounded by her distance. You closed your eyes as if to take in the words not only with your mind, but with your soul. I felt the shift inside you, that subtle but profound reorientation toward compassion, both for her and for yourself. The hurt didn't vanish, it softened. It unknotted itself just a little, enough for breath to move more freely through you. You were never alone, I said, with a softness that wrapped itself around the edges of your exhaustion. Even in your loneliest moments, when the ache felt unbearable, you were held. By forces unseen, by love that transcended the visible, by strength you did not yet recognize as your own. And you will never be alone. Not truly. The air around us lightened, as though the very room had been holding its breath until now. The shadows that had hovered in the corners of your awareness receded, thinning like mist under the morning sun. The world began to shift back into its ordinary shape, the clock ticking steadily on the wall, the soft glow of the lamp casting amber halos against familiar objects, the quiet press of night against the windows like a gentle reminder of a world still turning. "My message is complete," I said gently, beginning to withdraw, though not entirely. "But my presence remains. Always. In the quiet moments you think no one sees, in the wind through the trees, in the unexpected kindnesses that cross your path. I am here." I felt the room exhale with you. The tension that had gathered in the space between your ribs loosened, the invisible weights you had carried for years shifting, falling away grain by grain. You didn't have to be strong in the way you had learned to be. You didn't have to hold so much alone. And yet the story did not end there, because healing almost never concludes in a single moment. It begins in one, yes, but it continues in gentle waves, in small awakenings, in the quiet recalibrations of a heart learning to trust itself again. In the days that followed, you noticed little changes. Not dramatic ones, those rarely come first, but subtle ones, the kind that reveal themselves only when you look back and realize something inside you has been rearranged. You found yourself holding your shoulders a little straighter when thoughts of her surfaced. The sting didn't rush to meet you anymore. Blame didn't fill the space like smoke as it once had. There was room now, room for nuance, room for curiosity, room for gentleness. You began to reach out, not with desperation, not with the trembling need to be validated or answered, but with quiet courage. A message sent without expectation. A memory shared without accusation. A moment of listening without preparing for hurt. You didn't know where these small gestures would lead, and that was the beauty of it, they weren't rooted in fear anymore. They came from a place of steadiness. And perhaps, in time, the silence would break. Not with grand declarations or dramatic reunions, but with tentative steps toward understanding. A simple reply, a shared smile, a softened tone. Or perhaps the peace would remain internal, a private reconciliation with what was and what could not be changed. Either way, you were free, and freedom, in this form, is its own quiet miracle. You rose from the chair that night, stretching limbs that felt lighter than they had in years. The lamp still glowed. The clock still ticked. Everything in the room was the same, yet everything felt different. Softer. More possible. Like the world had shifted half an inch to the left, just enough for you to notice the opening where before there had been only walls. You walked to the window and looked up at the stars scattered across the velvet sky. They had always been there, those stars, constant, distant, shining regardless of whether anyone noticed them. And as you gazed at them, I thought, love is much like that. The love between you and your sister, imperfect and tangled, but genuine in its own way, had always been there too. Beneath the silence. Beneath the misunderstandings. Beneath the unspoken fears. Like starlight waiting to be seen again. You smiled then, small, unforced, real. In that smile was the beginning of something new. Not the erasure of the past, but the embrace of a different way of seeing it. The mantle of light I had placed around your shoulders lingered. Not visible, but unmistakably felt. A reminder that you were rare, not broken. Sensitive, not weak. Worthy of love exactly as you are, without apology or explanation. You carried that truth with you into the night, into your dreams, into the parts of yourself where old wounds had once made their home. As you drifted into sleep, the past did not loom like a shadow behind you. It settled instead into its rightful place, no longer an anchor, but a chapter. You dreamt not of old hurts, but of open paths, of healing hearts, of conversations spoken gently under warm light, of possibilities that had once felt unreachable. This was the transformation promised. Not a rewriting of what happened, but a re-seeing of it. Not the erasure of pain, but the soft, steady release of its hold. And you, always the one who felt deeper, who carried more, who tried harder, finally allowed yourself to feel the depth of your own strength. A strength that wasn't forged through struggle, but revealed through tenderness. A strength that had always been there, waiting beneath the layers of self-blame and silence. The seed had been watered. Growth would come. Slowly. Quietly. In unexpected moments. In breaths that felt fuller. In choices made with clarity instead of fear. In time. With grace. And with the quiet, unshakable certainty that you were, and always had been, enough.